All right, so this is probably going to be relatively quick, but basically what I wanted to do is pretty much track the performance of power hour, or 3 to 4 p.m. New York local, because with the exception of today, I've just been noticing that it seems to be kind of rushing into the close for certain days, and was just curious to see, if there's any heightened activity lately of, expectancy for basically the last hour of the day to be closing up where the close is above the open. But it can kind of get us introduced to some pretty basic concepts with Pine. I started making pretty much a skeleton of the script, so I have something to kind of go off of so it doesn't take too long. But I will try to explain along the way. And of course, if there are any questions, please let me know. Okay. So I guess first things first, Pine, I'm going to open a new indicator. Just call this power hour. And if you can see the tooltips in here, I'm just giving it a title and a short title. The short title is what's displayed over here when you add it to your chart. Overlay, I'm just going to set to true because I'm going to want to draw some boxes basically around the last hour of trading just to see, basically get a easy visual of where we open and where we closed. That's pretty much all we need to start. So as far as setting some inputs, if we are tracking power hour, it doesn't really need to be limited to that. That's just what I'm interested in, but we could certainly make this an input so that we can check various times without having to adjust the code. And for that, I can do something like session is equal to input.session. And I'm going to define this as 9:30 to 4 o'clock p.m. New York local, just to start and see, make sure that's working. The name of it will be session. Tooltip, I will make sure to specify this is New York local time, because I will probably be posting this after we're done. We could define a color here for the boxes that we're going to draw. Input.color. Let's just do a somewhat transparent blue. Call that color. And ultimately what I want to do is kind of track like the last, for example, 20 sessions and see, what the probability was that we closed above the open and vice versa. I don't have that part built out just yet, but I'll just put the input parameter in here just so we don't forget. Before I forget, minimum value should be 1. We can't have less than 1 days for this. So I'm going to define just a parameter t for, that's going to basically say that it's a valid time. So I'll say t is, this is kind of the line that they give you when you look up PineScript reference manual, how to check if a certain time is valid. They'll tell you to do t equals not NA time, and we'll just do this for now. Session, time zone, America, New York. I'm gonna explain this in a sec. So this NA function, I kind of consider it like if something is NA, then it's basically empty. So we're checking that this time value is not empty for, it's basically checking this first parameter. Let me just back up here. If we go to, so once we open these parentheses, we can see we get this time frame. And it says if an empty string is interpreted as the current time frame of the chart. So it's going to be checking the current bar on the current time frame, and we're going to be comparing it to the session that we defined. So this session parameter is this input from right here. What else did I have? And then time zone, America, New York. Otherwise, I think it defaults to, I don't know, the exchange time zone or whatever, because I'm pretty sure if you don't define America, New York, and you're using futures, then I think 9:30 is actually 8:30 because it's central time, something along those lines. So I would just make sure to define it. I guess I'll define a couple variables here. we can say I'm going to track the starting price of basically the session that we're checking. I'm going to define this as a float value because price is a decimal. Then we can do the same for end price. And I'm also going to track the indexes of these. I don't really know if you need to, but I usually do anyway, so worth having. And we can track the actual statistics for whether a session is up, close, or not. So we can say session up equals 0, and session total equals 0 as well. So we're going to be able to track how many times the close is greater than the open, and then regardless of that, increment the session total so that we can get a percentage value of how often it does in fact close up. And we can say, so I guess the starting criteria for basically when price is whatever 9:29 New York local time and then flips to 9:30, we want to be tracking the opening price of that time. So we can basically say, so let me back up for a second. At 9:30, this t value is going to be true, but at 9:29 it is going to be false. So we can kind of take advantage of that by saying if t and not t from 1 bar ago, so if the current time is valid and it's not valid from 1 bar ago, we can say start price, and we're going to reassign this value. That's why you need this colon here. Start price is equal to open, and that would be open of the current bar, because that would be 9:30 in this case. And our starting index is going to be the bar index. Also forgot to define the box that we're going to be drawing. Let's do session box. So we can define this box to draw around basically encompassing the whole duration of the session's price action. And we're going to set that to box.new bar index. By the way, I don't know if anyone's trying to follow along here. I'm going to be sharing this afterwards, so don't worry too much about trying to follow along with everything I'm doing here. I already have most of it written out. Say BG color equals the color that we defined in the inputs up above. Same thing for border color. So let's see. So now that's basically only going to run when our session begins. Now I want to check what about when our session ends. So it ends at 4 o'clock. So what happens when the clock turns to 4:01? And when that's the case, t is not going to be true. So if not t and t was true for 1 bar ago, because at 3:59 p.m. t would have been true, then we can basically do the same thing we did here, but for the end price and ending index. And this is going to be close from 1 bar ago, because that's when t was valid. And now, since it's the end of the day, we can basically just set this box to NA, make it a null value basically. And now, as far as tracking everything, basically we just want to check if the end price is greater than the starting price. And if that's the case, we want to do session up plus equals 1. And regardless of whether the end price is greater than the starting price, we want to increment the session total. So now we have these two cases where it'll enter this if we just started the session, and it will check this if we just ended the session. And now, just for the sake of visuals, I want to be kind of fitting the box to the most recent price action. So we can say basically the same thing we did up here for time. We're going to be checking if not NA, the session box. So we're basically checking if it exists. And the only way it exists is if it is initiated here when we enter a new session, because we set it to null basically when the session is over. Then we can say box.set right. Going to be passing in session box, and we're just going to be setting it to the current bar index. Now, If the current high is greater than the box's high, then we just want to refit that. So if high is greater than box dot get top, session box, then box dot set top, session box high. And same thing for the low. If the low is less than the current box's low, then we're just going to refit that. Let's get bottom and set bottom. Let me save this and see. Yeah, that's fine. Power hour, bilaying. Let me add it to the chart. Okay, it seems to be working because we're on RTH, real trading hours. Let me turn off all this extra stuff. Yeah, so that seems to be working. If we throw on bar replay here, could verify that. So it starts at 9:30, refits to the latest price action, seems to be working just fine. I don't think we ended up making new highs or lows. Yeah, so if we tune this to a different time, our hour would be 15 o'clock. So it does seem to fit around the last hour price action. You can see wherever my mouse is right here, 15 o'clock to 15:55, looks right. So now, as far as actually displaying all that stuff, like what we're tracking, the session up and the session total, we can basically put that in a table to make it look a little nice. So we can say, I'm just going to define a table as stats is table.new, position.top right, 10 rows, 10 columns, just so we don't run into any errors with not having enough space. I'll do background color is white. And now if we are on the last bar of the chart, because we don't need to be running this every single time, throughout the bar history that's being loaded into the chart, we can do table.cell. We're going to be doing this to the stats table, and the very first cell, I'm just going to say session up close, and I'm going to copy that. And then right next to it, I'm going to, I guess we can put the total number of instances. So we need to pass a string here. So we currently have a integer value, so we would have to pass that in as str.toString. And let's just do session up. And then we could do session total, make that session total. And then the last thing we want to check, oh, wait. Also want to make sure this is on a new row, otherwise it'll just or rather overwrite the data that we just made in here. Paste one more time, and I want to check the percentage of this occurring. So I could just do session up divided by session total times 100, and you can actually do this format %. To make it a little easier. See if that comes up. All right, cool. Let me exit out of bar replay. So yeah, that was pretty easy to make. So this is very limited to the amount of data that you can get on TradingView, and I think that depends on the plan that you have, whether you're Pro or Pro Plus or Premium. I think that affects basically how many bars back you're able to look on a chart, and I think the limit is like 10,000 bars or something like that. But basically, 72 days obviously isn't too statistically significant. You would probably want to, if you were seriously trying to collect data on this, it would be better to do this in something like Python, where you could get access to much more data. But I mean, if you're just trying to flesh out ideas, I usually just come to PineScript first, just because it's pretty easy to work with. It's kind of similar to Python in its language structure. It's not very difficult compared to some bracketing languages like C or whatever. But yeah, this pretty much accomplishes what we wanted to do. So out of this many 72 sessions, 46 closed above where they opened, and that would be a 64% probability. So it also matters, you can zoom out a little bit to get more history. So we see on a 15-minute chart, we're getting much different numbers. That's because we're getting the same amount of bars, but we're able to look back more because we're on a higher time frame. And so we have 215 sessions, and now the percentage of those that are up close are only 58%. And obviously you have to be kind of careful of what time frame you go here, because obviously you say, you know, maybe we go to a 4-hour or a daily to get even more data, but then the time frame is larger than what you're actually trying to look at, and you won't get anything. So even on a half-hour chart, should still work, because we're looking at these two bars right here, and we get a little over 500 sessions, 50% probability. But as we zoom in, we can see that more recently we're getting a higher chance of closing up in the last hour. And maybe we can just do some visual things to make it stand out a little bit better. So maybe we can say, if the close is below the open, we can color this box red. Otherwise, color it green, something like that. We can try doing that. Bar state equals last. So we're going to do that on in this loop right here, because that's when our session is ending, right? We have T is not valid, and it was just valid 1 bar ago. So if not NA session box, we could say, rather, if end price is greater than start price, and we can say box.set color session box to maybe like a more transparent red or something. And we also need to do this for background, or sorry, border color. There it is, set border color. And then we can just do that and say else, set it to green. Oh, I have this reversed, don't I? If end price is greater than start price, we want to show green. Otherwise, we want to show red. Makes a little more sense. Let's see if it works. And it does not. Why is this one showing green? What did I do? If end price is greater than start price. Did I just do something really stupid here? What happened? We set our end price over here. Oh wait, I'm in the wrong loop. Am I? What's going on? This is the loop I want to be in. So I should be here. Alright, well, here's where commenting becomes a little more relevant. So, start session, we want to be entering this loop. End session, we want to be entering this one. And this is just, let's say, during session. So during session, we don't really care about setting the color. We only care about setting it at the end of the session. And if the end price is greater than the start price. Oh, whoops. Okay, we already set the box to NA here, so these functions are taking effect. So we can move that up here. And I think that should be good. Yeah. Okay. So we start over here, maybe make that a little less vibrant. Transparency 70. Yeah, okay. So opening price is right here, close down here, box is red. We just do the entire day, so it's a little easier to see. 9:30. So that looks good. Open here, close there, open here, close there, it's red. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, cool. Not sure there was too much else I wanted to do just now. I mean, at the end of the day, we could definitely add to this over time. Maybe this just becomes a regular streaming thing where we can add bits and pieces. Yeah, so on the 5-minute is where I found it to be a little more significant for 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. I think it was, yeah, 64% over the last 72 trading sessions. It's pretty much like 3 months, roughly. What about 2 minutes? Yeah, so over the last 30 sessions, it is 71%. What the last 30 sessions look like. Pretty much straight up, so that makes sense. Again, I think it'd be definitely nice to collect this sort of thing in Python for some actually more reliable data. But you know, smaller, more recent sample sizes can also be interesting to take a look at, which is the whole reasoning for me trying to flesh this thing out. I mean, I'm fine with that for now. I'll probably just leave it at that. Go grab some dinner or something. Any questions about this code? I tried to explain a little bit, but one thing I didn't really touch on is these var keywords are pretty helpful, especially when you're trying to backtest and track instances like this. Because essentially they're only initiated once when you do this. So when you're tracking session up, it's basically starting at 0. But if you didn't have this session keyword in here, then on every new bar, when this code is executed, then it's going to reset to 0. And obviously you don't want that if you're trying to test over a large number of bars or history. So this var keyword initiates it basically on the first bar, and you can, you know, we're just incrementing it by 1 each time it's true. And so that value will persist throughout the future until we call it on the last bar. So that's pretty helpful. I've found that for, I use that in a lot of my stuff. But yeah, I don't want this to drag on too much if there's not many questions in anything. If you want, I'll publish this after, and we can maybe mess with it on another day and add some more stuff to it. Whatever you guys want to do. But yeah, I'll probably end the stream here. Appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you next time.